All right, welcome back to the Run.down, not even post-game show. Schedule release stream for the 2024-25 season. I'm Sam. I probably will have some people joining me soon. But yeah, here is the Knicks season schedule. The schedule finally got released. We've been getting bits and pieces of the schedule released throughout the last couple of days. And yeah, but before we get into all of that, I do have to make this one announcement before we get started. Let me just pull this up. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason, NFL to college kicking off, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner take all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, so the next season schedule. There were a couple points in this. Well, let's get started actually with the first game of the season, which everyone knows is the season opener at Boston for Boston's ring ceremony on TNT at Tuesday, October 22nd. Highly anticipated matchup between arguably the two best teams in the conference. I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with that take right there. And yeah, it's just going to be an interesting matchup to see what happens during that that game. I mean, we'll see if Julius is ready by then. I think there was an update from Ian Begley just the other day about Julius and Mitchell Robinson, and we'll see if they're available for that game. But it's a good test for the Knicks out the gate against the best team in the conference, and who we're anticipating facing off against in the Eastern Conference Finals if we get there. So yeah, it's just a good test right out the gate. And then next game is on Friday, October 25th at MSG versus the Indiana Pacers. A rematch of the second round from last year. This time around, the Knicks will be much healthier than they were in that last matchup. And it's a chance for the Knicks to get a little bit of some early season revenge for that series, which we all believe would have went a different way if we were healthy. And then after that, to round out the first three games of the season, at Cleveland. We're at home versus Cleveland. Another Eastern Conference rival, you can say, I guess, that the Knicks will be facing off against early on. But yeah, I like this early part of the season. It gives the Knicks some pretty solid matchups against teams that we kind of, I guess, are sort of either better than or sort of parallels with. We've had some type of history with them in the past, especially in the playoffs. But yeah, I think that will be a very interesting matchup. Cleveland always has a pretty good defense, and the Knicks always seem to get the best of Cleveland. So we'll see what happens in that matchup. And then October 30th, we are at Miami. So another Eastern Conference team that we faced in the past in the playoffs. Miami's on a bit of a downturn. Didn't really make any significant moves, I would say, in the offseason. So they're returning a pretty lackluster roster. And yeah. There are also some key games throughout the year. Of course, we got the in-season tournament games in that group play. Tuesday, November 12th at Philadelphia. Friday, November 15th at MSG versus Brooklyn. We have also November 29th at Charlotte and December 3rd at home versus Orlando. That is on TNT. Yeah, I like our chances in this group. I think that the Knicks have a chance to make it somewhat farther than they did last year in the in-season tournament. So yeah, I think the most interesting matchup, of course, obviously, is the Philadelphia matchup. It's a rematch of last year's first round series. That was probably the only good playoff series of last year's playoffs, or one of the few good playoff series from last year's playoffs. And you know the NBA is going to do take advantage of every chance they get to prioritize that matchup. And of course, there's the factor of Paul George being there now. We have Mikal Bridges. So yeah, it's just going to be a very interesting matchup. I like our chances in this group. Like I said previously, I think we have a chance to come out of this group on top. And yeah, we'll see what happens with that. There is also in the schedule, there's this big gap, of course, the December 11th, December 10th through 16th stretch. There are or December 17th, I should say, there's that stretch of the NBA Cup knockout rounds and championship game, I believe. So that part of the season is just sort of blacked out for now. We'll see what the Knicks do during that stretch, if they can get to the knockout rounds and win the NBA Cup. But yeah, we also have, of course, Christmas Day. That is another key game. The Knicks will be playing against Wembanyama in MSG. I think the NBA is like taking that one grand step ahead with Wemby, prioritizing him on the Christmas docket, kicked Giannis off. And I think this is also a result of last year's game. Jalen Brunson had 61. Wemby had like 40 and 20 or something like that. It was just an absolutely insane game. And I think the league sees some sort of potential for, I don't know, not a repeat, but hopefully the same type of result in high level competition going down to the stretch. I think the game went to overtime last year, I believe, as well. So yeah, the Knicks once again getting another Christmas Day game, and you know, that's a highly anticipated matchup, I would say. We also have, there's this one stretch that I pointed out on Twitter just now. If you're following me, I tweeted it out. The stretch from January 6th to February 3rd. It's not a massive home stretch, but it's going to feel like a massive home stretch because there are two road games in there, and the two road games are at Philadelphia on January 15th, and at Brooklyn on January 21st. Those are going to feel like home games. Those are genuinely going to feel like home games. It's going to feel like a super long home stretch. And I feel like the Knicks have a chance there if they are fully healthy. If Robinson and Randall are fully healthy, the team has got their chemistry going. This can be a really dominant stretch. That is a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games. 15-game win streak is not out of the question. I'm calling it right now. You could clip this. You could do whatever. I'm calling the Knicks shot right now. That is a chance for them to go on a 15-plus game win streak right there. There are some tougher opponents in that stretch. You have a Oklahoma City team the Knicks will be welcoming back Isaiah Hartenstein on January 10th. You have a Milwaukee team. They're not as good as they used to be, but they are still a pretty good team in the Eastern Conference. You have also Philadelphia. Can't ignore what they did in the offseason, although I'm not taking it that seriously. And you also have Minnesota. They're a top team in the West. You have Memphis. They'll be fully healthy this year. You have Denver. Although Denver took a step back, they're still a pretty good team. But yeah, those are some teams that we'll be facing in this stretch, and it's very this stretch could be very similar to the stretch we had when we originally acquired OG and Anobi, and we faced off against likes of Philly, Minnesota, um, teams like that, teams that were at the top of the conference, top of the league. We faced off against those teams. We beat them pretty handily with OG and Anobi. So I just think that I just think that what you call it. I think this is a time for the Knicks to really make a name for themselves during that stretch. Um, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm calling my shot now that I think the Knicks can go on a 15 or so game win streak. If not that, they have a chance to really be um, just have a really great record during that stretch. And let's see what else, what other stretches we have during the season. Um, Which other stretches we have during the season? After that stretch, of course, we have at Toronto. Um, and then we have Boston, Indiana, Atlanta. That closes things out for that first part of the season before we head to the All-Star break. Um, and yeah, after the All-Star break, there are a lot of road games, including a brutal road stretch, which I think the Knicks, as of late, have been able to sort of come out of these road stretches either above 500 or like just below 500, but they haven't been like brutalized during these stretches. Um, but yeah, there's a Western Conference trip, of course. Lakers, Clippers, Sacramento, Portland, Golden State. Clippers, Sacramento, Portland, and even Golden State really don't really scare me as much as they probably would have in the past. Even the Lakers too. I think like this is a palatable road stretch. I mean, it's a tough one in terms of like all the games that are consecutively after each other in the Western Conference at those late start times, but I like the Knicks' chances for them. Um, and then you got some back to backs in here, of course. And just give me 1 second, people. Sorry, folks. All right, back at it. Knicks schedule. But yeah, there's some back to backs in April. Right before the playoffs. A lot of back to backs in April. You got the April 1st and 2nd back to back, Philadelphia, Cleveland. You got the Atlanta Phoenix back to back, the 5th and the 6th. You also got at Detroit and versus Cleveland on the 10th and 11th. So a lot of back to backs in April. We're heading into the playoffs. Hopefully the Knicks are healthy. Hopefully the things are going right. And you know they can build on whatever momentum they have at the time and continue whatever's going on at that time. Sorry, folks, getting a lot of messages right now. Oh yeah. All right. So back to the schedule. So I think, I mean, even before seeing the schedule, obviously, I mean, everyone plays the same opponents all year round. It's just a matter of where they fall in place, in terms of the early part of the season, late part of the season. Last year, I felt that we had a lot of road games, I think, to start the year or whatever. Um, and we faced Boston and Milwaukee a ton in the beginning of the year. I think our opponents are pretty spread out evenly, in terms of like what like strength of opponent, I would say, or at least how I perceive strength of opponent. Um, just because I am not as afraid of certain opponents as I was last year, as I am of them this year. I think it's just because what we've seen this team be able to do, who they've acquired, um, and yeah, I mean, it all depends, especially on the health of certain players. Obviously, of course, there's the Julius Randle of it all, there's the Mitchell Robinson of it all, but I still like our chances, even if we're starting like Jalen, Dante, Macau, OG, and Precious to start the year. Like, I still think that's pretty good to start off the season and not really miss that much of a beat. I mean, I think we saw end of last year. I mean, obviously the missing of Hartenstein will definitely be a blow, because he's the one that you probably would have inserted in the starting lineup instead of Precious. But we'll see how things roll out. I think the beginning part of the season is not too hard for the Knicks, aside from the Boston matchup. I really like our chances against Indiana, Cleveland, Miami, Detroit, and Houston. Um, there is that little road stretch in the beginning of the season, Miami, Detroit, Houston, Atlanta. That can be a little bit bumpy. Um, but I do like that stretch from November 13th to the 18th, that little 4-game home stretch for the Knicks to really get back. If they start off the season a little rough. But yeah, if you are here, you can definitely leave a comment, ask some questions. I know I started this stream a little bit later than anticipated. Life happens, especially coming back from summer camp, working with kids. But yeah, leave a comment, any questions, comments you guys have about this upcoming season. Um, yeah, I'm here to answer them, here to discuss. I was anticipating some sort of co-host. We'll see what happens as the stream goes on. But yeah, I really like my favorite part of the season is definitely that January 6th to um February 3rd mark. I think there's an even balance of strong opponents, weaker opponents, middle of the pack guys, um, and a lot of home games. Like a lot. There's like two different stretches of like 5 or more home games. Yeah, there's like two stretches of five straight home games. Um, and then Brooklyn and Philadelphia are basically home games from what we've seen in the past. So it's like you're not really gonna miss a beat. Um, so yeah, I think that's gonna probably be the most fun stretch of the season. Um, but yeah, I'm calling it now. Like I said earlier, I think that's just part of the season where the Knicks can really just like raise hell on the league and put the league on notice, like they did during that January stretch this year. Like they were like, all right, like it's just go time. Um, Let me know if there are any key matchups that you guys are looking forward to in the comments here. If there are any opponents that you're looking forward to facing, any players that you're looking forward to facing, um, any stretches of the season that stick out to you. Um, yeah, it's not as rough as I think we all anticipated last year's beginning stretch of the year to be like. We do have the obvious, of course, 24 um, national TV games, excluding NBA TV. I think it's like an even split between. I want to say it's an even split between TNT and ESPN. I'm not really thrilled about the TNT games just because of the prospect of having Shaq and Chuck talk about the Knicks um, in such a delightful way. But yeah, let's see what else we got here during the schedule. Oh, there's this other Western Conference stretch from November 20th to the 27th. That one could be a little bit more tougher just because of the strength of the opponents. You have Phoenix, Utah, Denver, Dallas. Um, yeah, that's kind of rough. Dallas just coming off a finals appearance. Denver still one of the best teams in the West. Phoenix, they still got that top heavy roster. They've tried to make some moves on the margins to bolster depth, and we'll see what happens as a result of that. But yeah, I think that's going to be another sort of not brutal stretch, but it's going to be a very interesting stretch. It's going to test the resolve of this team. I think we all know what to expect from this team, but still. Um, we also have here. What else do we have? We have Macal's back home game, which is not even going to feel like a back home game, which is the first time it's during that January stretch. Yeah. They'll probably have a tribute video of him for and all that, but yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the easier matchups. I think Brooklyn fans are actually going to be probably rooting for themselves to lose at that point, just to help their lottery odds at that point. Um, but yeah, leave a comment and let me know if there's any matchups that you guys are looking forward to, any stretches of the season that stick out to you. What else do we have here? I'm not complaining about the scheduling yet, but I guarantee during the season I probably will, just based on which games I end up covering post game, and how much of a toll they take on me. um, Especially probably during that Western Conference swing. But I think my most anticipated matchups this year are probably going to be just matchups versus Boston, just to see how we match up with them. Um, Philadelphia, it's going to be fun to see their fans still freaking out, especially if they can't beat the Knicks still with Paul George. Definitely can't wait to see how they receive Paul George and how they treat him over there that first year there. And what else do we have here? What other opponents? Indiana. It's going to be fun to be playing against Indiana. I think us as Knicks fans have kind of outgrown the Cleveland thing now at this point. Like we kind of recognize like they're not just at all where we want to be. Um, and yeah, what other opponents do we have that are interesting? I already went over the Christmas Day game, which definitely will be an interesting one. Nick's tape here. He says Miami 4 games into the season. I'm not even scared of Miami anymore. Like I know we all perceive their devil magic at this point, but um, I am not scared of them anymore. Like even their fans aren't even like that. Like even their fans aren't even delusional about them like they used to be anymore. Like I think their fans kind of like have accepted that they're like not gonna be a good team this year. Like they know they're stuck with, oh yeah, I get it, the scaring of the injuring of our players. Yeah, that's always the prospect of playing against Bam. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's all they got at this point, injuring players. Like they can't even like do anything basketball wise because like you got the whole Jimmy Pat Riley thing brewing over there. You have Tyler Hero, who's always interesting, but yeah, I mean, I guess their fans will have fun looking forward to like Josh Christopher minutes or something. I don't know, and Khalil Ware, whatever he can provide them in year one. But yeah, I would just love to go down to Miami and just like shellac them, just like absolute like put down like a 20-point beat down to start the year in Miami. Just like set the tone with that matchup. Like if we can do that, then I'll be happy. I'll be at peace for that portion of the season. Um, and yeah, he also says run Indy out the gym for the home opener for sure. Um, just make sure Hallie doesn't get his game off. Put McCall on him if you have to. Put OG on Pascal and just like let everything else fall where they may. Like, um, yeah, I I would definitely like to see the Knicks take care of business at home versus Indiana. I'm gonna try to get into the building for that one. Um, if FanDuel wants to be kind to me between now and then I'll definitely make sure to set aside some cash for that game. Because I know tickets are gonna be crazy. I last went to the home opener that year. We got Evan Fournier. That Boston game that went to like double overtime. I went to that home opener. I haven't been to a Knicks game since. Like that's how long it's been since I've been to a Knicks game. So yeah, I definitely need to make sure to get myself to a game, especially in this era of the Knicks with Jalen Brunson and whatnot, as they're like really good now. Um, but yeah, nah. I gotta make sure I set aside some parlay money. I gotta set some reminders on my phone. I'm always forgetting when I get money from these parlays. I actually just go spend it on things like my girlfriend and clothes and stuff. But yeah. Um yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make my way to that home opener. It should be a very good game. The energy in the garden will probably be insane as it's like a revenge game or so early in the season versus a team that we just lost to in the playoffs. It's really fresh. So yeah, that should be a really exciting game. And you also have the hype from the offseason shenanigans of Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton at WrestleMania. So, um, at that wrestling event or whatever it was at MSG. But yeah, there's always that adds to the lore of this matchup now. Um, he also says very happy to see seemingly way less back to backs. Last season was absurd with that. I think last year was way worse with the back to backs. There's that stretch in late April, or not late April, but like that stretch in April where there's like a bunch of back to backs. Even in the second half of the season, it seems like there's just like more back to backs than we have in the first half of the season. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's to be expected. Hopefully, it's not too bad. Um, Hopefully, the season scheduling isn't too bad. Hopefully, they found a way to fix the whole NBA Cup thing because like we ended up facing like Boston or Milwaukee like 5 times last year. And like that was kind of absurd, especially since we faced Boston and Milwaukee so much to start the year. So hopefully the league found a way to work their way around that. Yeah. Jordan Bub notes that the first 10 games aren't too bad. So yeah, looking through the first 10 games, um, at Boston, Indiana, Cleveland, at MSG. Then we have at Miami, at Detroit, at Houston, at Atlanta, Milwaukee at MSG, at Indiana, at Philadelphia. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. A lot of road games, but they're like not like crazy opponent on the road, I would say. Um, at Miami, at Detroit, at Houston, at Atlanta. It's like a really soft road schedule, I would say. At Indiana, at Philadelphia. I mean, even Philadelphia is not even a tough road environment either. I mean, we just saw what happened in the playoffs there. Um, Indiana has a good home crowd, though. I'll give them that. They definitely have a good home crowd. Um, but yeah, I mean, the first 10 games aren't too bad. I could see ourselves going. I would love to spoil ring night. I'll put a win there. Win the first two games at home. Win at Miami. Win at Detroit. I could dead see us going like maybe like 8-2 in this stretch, 7-3. Is that wild? Is that wild? 8-2, 7-3 in that first 10 game stretch. I know there's a lot of road games, but like the road opponents really don't frighten me as at all, to be honest. Like I can see ourselves going 7-3. Worst case scenario is going 5-5. I think in that situation, I think that's the worst possible that it could be for us. We go 5-5 somehow. Split some of the road games on like some ridiculous like home luck from a team. But yeah, I think we could go 7-3, 8-2. Like that's just not crazy. Yeah, 8-10, 8-2. That's doable. In that, like we know what this team is capable of at this point. We've seen what other teams have done. Atlanta looks like they took a step back. Houston, maybe some of their young guys, pop a little bit more this year. I still like us in that matchup. Detroit is Detroit. Miami took a step back. I like our chances versus Indiana and Philadelphia always. Boston's like the one team where I'm like, maybe we might lose. Again, they rings, they feel on themselves. We're not fully ourselves. We don't have Randall and Robinson back all the way. Like, I can see like that one, but I could still see that one going down to the wire. Us coming down, having a close game with them, like, not too crazy. That's like the one game I'm like totally unsure of. Jordan Bub brings up there's only 2 back-to-backs throughout September to the new year. Yeah, that's key right there. I think a fresh Knicks team going into that January stretch, where that January 3rd or January 6th to February 3rd stretch that I really love. Um, like if the Knicks can be fresh and healthy going into that stretch, woo, I'm telling you, I could see a 15, 16, 17 game win streak during that stretching from going from January to February right there. Like that's what I'm talking about right there. Like that's what I'm looking forward to. Ace Richard says first 82-0 season. Let's fucking go. I think that's gonna be one of those things that just never happens in the NBA ever. Nick's tape also says, I'm sure we'll have a classic beginning of the year stinker, splitting with Indy, but it's really not that bad. Honestly, I could see our like beginning of the year stinker being like losing to Cleveland at home early in the year for some reason. Just because we did that, I feel like we've done that in a lot of our early season matchups versus Cleveland. Not last year, but I think the year prior and the year before that, we played Cleveland beginning of the year, and we've had some stinkers in those games. So that's something to just think about right there. But I think the first 10 games, I think we should do pretty well in those games. It could definitely be. It could definitely. Ace Richard says Sam being high on this team has me scared. I feel like I was high on last year's team too. Like I don't know. Like, was I down on last year's team and then we ended up being good? Because I remember I was like super high on us coming after the 20. I was super high on us going into the 2021-22 season. Um, and that season stunk. Um, but I think I've been pretty high on us coming into every other season since then. Like, maybe not as high as I am right now, but like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the Knicks, like, they have like a sort of chemistry with each other. Um, like, I don't discount like that friendship shit. Like, I know people like joke about that shit all the time, but I really do think that um I do think that that shit like sort of matters. Especially like going into the season down two guys. Um but yeah. Oh yeah, we had a garbage loss to Cleveland at the beginning of the year last year with no Garland or Allen. Yeah, see, I'm telling you, like every year, it's like Cleveland. Like we just gotta give them like a bone. Like the Knicks just have to give them like a bone every year, in the beginning of the year, and just beat their ass for the rest of the year after that. So yeah, I think it's probably gonna be Cleveland at MSG. It's gonna be some nonsense. Um, like those early season matchups with Cleveland always are just like so ridiculous. It's always nonsense happening between the two of us. So yeah, I could definitely see that game being like the early season, beginning of the year stinker that we traditionally have. AC Star says he thinks that I was still doubtful of Randall last year. That's probably the case. I am. I think I'm higher on him this year just because like so many people are being so stupid about him this year. It's just like I of course always have my doubts of him, especially going into the postseason. Like, I'm always gonna be doubtful of like what he does in the postseason, just because he hasn't put together a single stretch in the postseason, whether due to injury or team circumstance or himself, where he is just um, where he's just like dominant in the playoffs. So like he doesn't even have to be dominant in the playoffs, just be like competent in the playoffs. And I feel like until I see that, then I'm always gonna have doubts on him. But like the way people are talking about him lately is just so stupid. Like it's just so stupid. And like I don't know, I'm just like super high on this team, and like him being a part of proving people wrong. Um, and with that will come the success of this team, of course. Like if he proves everyone wrong and proves that he can be a contributor, like he was during that January stretch in the playoffs, that leads to team success, and that's what we all want at the end of the day. So I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to be rational about it, unlike what everyone else is doing, um, including one person that co-hosts this show with me on a regular basis, um, who has turned the tables. So yeah. Yeah, I'm never gonna be like super duper confident, but yeah, I'm not gonna be insane like other people are being. So there's that. So Jordan Bub, all right, he says the toughest stretch is February 21st to March 17th because we only face Portland, which will be a bad team, which will probably be the only bad team in that stretch. All the other teams are playoff caliber, playoff and play in caliber. All right, so let's look through that stretch. We have February 21st to March 17th. So February 21st, we start at Cleveland. Yeah, after All-Star break is a pretty rough stretch, I will say, just because of the amount of road games that there are. And they're road games against like pretty competent basketball teams, I would say. So you have Friday, March 21st. February 21st at Cleveland. Then on Sunday at Boston. That's a really tough 2 game stretch right there within itself. Um, then you have Wednesday the 26th. I like that there's 2 days off of rest. Then we at home versus Philadelphia. Then at Memphis, then at Miami. I mean, Memphis will be healthier this year. They'll be a better team. Miami, they'll be playing caliber. I'll give you that. Golden State, they didn't make the moves that their fans wanted to. Shout out to some of my mutuals on Twitter that have been clamoring for them to send picks for Lowry Markkinen. Sorry that didn't happen, by the way. They made some moves around the margins. Their team doesn't move me fully. It probably still will be a play-in team. As long as Steph is there, as we've seen, you have a chance to win. And then there's that brutal West Coast stretch from March 6th to the 15th. Lakers, Clippers, Sacramento, Portland, Golden State. Lakers and Clippers both don't scare me that much, for obvious reasons. Sacramento, they'll be a playoff team. Golden State, probably playing, maybe. But yeah. And then at home versus Miami. I see what you're saying there. It's not as brutal, but it's probably the hardest stretch of the season, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's the do we have what it takes stretch. Yeah, that will definitely test this team. But I also think during this stretch, there's a possibility. Randall is back. He's fully ingratiated into the team. He's fully himself. He's back. Robinson, fully healthy. Maybe he's played himself into shape at this point because we know how things can be when he's coming back from injury, especially early in the season. But yeah, that could be a point in the season where it's like, all right, boom, Mitch Robinson has played himself into shape. Randall is in his groove. That's that could be a stretch where the Knicks actually are beating the hell out of teams, and we're just like, oh, okay, they're like a contender for real right now. So yeah. Um, he also notes a back-to-back out of the break, immediate out of the break. Yeah, there's that second half of the season is like a lot of road games, a lot of back-to-backs. It's like the Knicks are really going to be tested. I saw Trae Young's dad complaining on Twitter. He says, just got this NBA schedule. Yep, I know exactly how the script is going to go this year, trying to make sure playoff teams from last year are going to be stacking up a lot of wins before All-Star break. Hold up. Let me just respond to. Let me quote tweet that. Yeah, shout out to Adam. All right. Check that out if you want to. But yeah. Other than that, Trey's dad, man, funny guy, Rayford Young. Um, it's like, dude, your son is on a team that like sucks, man. Like, don't know how to break it to you, or maybe you're just in denial. But the Hawks aren't going to be good. And we get Atlanta the day right before All-Star break. So maybe he's not. Maybe he's right. Maybe the next. Maybe he's trying. Maybe Adam is trying to make sure the playoff teams stack up some wins. How many times do we play Atlanta before All-Star break? 1, 2, 3. He's right. We play them 3 times right before All-Star break. He's right. They did give us some easy ones. But yeah. Ace Bouchard says it's 82 games. The schedule really isn't going to mess with the competitiveness of your team. Yeah, I mean, it'll mess with, I guess, like depending on like how many back-to-backs you have, or like depending on which opponents you get during which part of the season. But like if your team is good, they'll be good throughout the whole year. It's not just going to be because they've got a bunch of like easy wins before the All-Star break. Um, but Guy's son is on a losing team. He's got to like find some way to cope, right? Like he's got to find some way to cope about this shit. Next tape asks, how's iHeart received in his first game back at the Garden? I think he gets like a nice little ovation. He helped us a ton in these 2 years that he was here. It is a shame that he didn't want to just take the 72 mil and stay, but the opportunity for much more money and still being on a competitive team, I guess, allured him. Not everyone can take sacrifices like Jalen Brunson. But yeah, I think he'll be received nicely. Get a nice little ovation. Nick's probably put a nice little video for him or something. He was key during these last couple years, especially when Robinson went down. It was like, oh shit, we got like 2 starting centers. So like if Robinson goes down, boom, plug in iHeart. And then we found this whole new way of playing with iHeart where it was like dribble handoffs and like he became like some sort of like playmaking hub and whatnot. So he did a lot for the team in 2 years that he was here. He'll be sorely missed, and we'll figure out ways to work around his departure. But yeah, I think the Knicks fans know how to treat guys that played well during their time here. Ace Bishart says people act like easy wins early on help build confidence or something. I mean, I think what you call it that. Hold on. So tired, by the way. I literally hopped right off the bus, straight from work from summer camp, and hopped right on the stream. Didn't do anything else. Dedication. So shout out to everyone that's here. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. But yeah, he says people act like easy wins early on help build confidence or something. I mean, it depends. I mean, I think for like younger teams, I think that easy wins early on help. But I do think like those wins that you have to like really get it out of the mud for real, like those type of wins, those help build confidence way more than easy wins early in the season. Like I think like dog fights, I think that's what made the Knicks like such a like it made the Knicks a better team these last couple years. Just like all the dog fights that the Knicks had to get into, it just helped this team be more resilient, especially as like guys just kept falling, team just kept fighting. So like I think those type of wins build confidence early on more than easy ones. But again, like I said, Trey's dad knows his son is on a bad team. So that's why he's like, man, like, what is the Hawks schedule even like, anyways, for him to be complaining? Like, are they facing like every Eastern Conference playoff team every East and Western Conference playoff team in like the first half of the year or something? Like, this guy is like complaining for what? And like I said, his son is on a bad team. He has to find a way to cope. So yeah. And HPR says this is why the Bulls were a 1 seed and then fell to the play-in a couple years ago. I think there was also some other factors as to why they fell into the play-in. One, Alonzo Ball's knees falling off definitely contributed to that, but I do get what you're saying. So it's like those fun teams, like those type of teams. They're like, it's like, all right, like you have to be fun and good versus good opponents. You can't be like fun and good versus like middle of the pack to bad teams. Um, I think that was the year that we had like, was that our 2021-22 year, like the Randall thumbs down year? Was that the year that the Bulls were the 1 seed and then fell to the play-in? Um, I feel like ever since then, like the Knicks have had the fate that everyone thought the Bulls were gonna have, or even better. Because like everyone was like, "Oh, the Knicks are gonna be like this playing team for the next couple of years," and the Bulls, they're gonna be this playoff team. They're gonna be some top contender in the East for the years to come. Ever since then, it was just like, I mean, of course that had to do with like Lonzo getting hurt, and then the Bulls just actually just being mid, because like they bought into being they bought into whatever core that they had at the time. Um, and yeah. All right. But yeah, but yeah, next schedule. Leave in the comments what you think the Knicks record will be this year. How many wins do you think they're getting? Do we eclipse 60 wins? 60 wins is hard, man. Like if you're not like dominant and clicking on all cylinders all year round, that's like hard. I know like some people like jokingly say the six 60 wins, but like do we think there's an actual possibility for that? I would love for the Knicks to get 60 wins. I just don't know how possible that is. Oh man, I think I'm gonna get out of here in about 10 minutes or so. But yeah, leave any other questions, comments you guys have, predictions as well, because I predict that the Knicks will win. We won 50 last year, right? I think we could get to 55. I think like every year the Knicks take steps in their wins. And I think this past year we finally eclipsed 50 for the first time in like whatever however many years. I think this next year will go up to 55. That's my prediction for this year. 55 wins. Jordan Bubb says, the last 10 games might be a problem or non-importance to us depending on the variety of factors. Milwaukee, Portland, Philadelphia, Cavs, Atlanta, Phoenix, Boston, Detroit, Cavs, Brooklyn, at Brooklyn to end the season. Um, it might be a problem just depending on maybe on standings. But if the Knicks take care of business and secure home court regardless, I think like that would be. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying because like it seems like every year there's like a million factors that go into like seeding, um, especially like how tight things were this past year. It will be interesting to see how those games do impact the Knicks and like playoff seeding and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, a lot of respectable opponents in that stretch. Um, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Phoenix, Boston, Cleveland. Those are the matchups that are like um the Cleveland, Philadelphia, Milwaukee matchups, especially. Those could be like seeding things too. So it could very well come down to like the last game of the season again, possibly for the Knicks. Um, that like decides their seeding. So we'll see. I mean, it does make for amazing theatrics. I would love for the Knicks to just be able to take care of business and like the last like 4 or 5 games just don't matter. Where like the Knicks can just like play Tyler Kolek and Pacome Dadier, and give those guys like some run at the end of the year or something. Like I would love for that to be the case. That just hasn't been the case with the NBA, especially with the play-in the last couple of years. So it's just like, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I would love for the next year to just play like some of the rookies at the end of the year and be like, yo, just get some reps. Get some reps in MSG, against like some actual NBA talent for once. Um, but yeah, what do you guys think the Knicks will, what their record will be this year? You already know me, gonna have Knicks parlays all year. Definitely gonna be using some of these profits to go to some games. Hopefully, win some parlays big enough to get into some MSG playoff games because your boy knows those cost a lot of money. Um, and y'all will be joining me once again for another year of post game this year. Um, we'll see how often I am on. Of course, various factors factor into this, of course, with my school schedule and life itself. Um, but yeah, y'all will be here with me, maybe sweating some parlays, watching some other games going to overtime as I need player props to cash. Um, yeah, so looking forward to it all. I think I'm probably gonna head out of here just because I am exhausted from work. I hopped on here right after work, didn't give myself any time to breathe or anything like that. I saw the schedule on Twitter and I was like, time to hop on stream. Shout out to everyone that was here and like, left a comment, helped to keep the conversation going. Maybe you guys want to leave some predictions for this season as I close things out. Check out everything in the description. We have links to the site, merch, Patreon, and Twitter. And if you're watching on Twitter, I assume that you're following us. If you're not, do so. But yeah, I think should be another great year of Knicks basketball. Jalen Brunson MVP conversations once again, All NBA conversation, All Star conversation, all that good stuff. Maybe we get ourselves some clutch player of the year conversation. But yeah, shout out to everyone that tuned in. I will catch you on the next stream. Probably will be a preseason stream, most likely. But yeah, everyone enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of your summer. I'm going to watch some Little League Baseball. So peace out.